Hello, and welcome to our panel discussion of Breaking Barriers, the Changing Workforce Dynamics in the Pulp and Paper Industry. My name is Mary Elliston, and I'm going to be moderating the panel discussion. So we'll get started with some quick introductions, and then we will dive into our discussion. So just for a high level, a little bit about myself. Again, Mary Elliston. I'm an HR business partner with Sonoco Products Company, a global packaging provider based in Hartsville, South Carolina. And I am actually a graduate of the Paper Science Engineering program. I received my paper science degree in 2005, joined Sonoco full-time when I graduated, and spent the first 10 years in their paper division in operations management before switching over to an HR role about 5 years ago. So really excited to have a chance to hear your thoughts on some of the challenges and dynamics at play in our industry. So thank you for your participation, and let's hear a little bit about each of you. So Amy, would you like to start us off with an introduction?
Sure, thanks, Mary. Hi, Amy Shelton Little. I have over 20 years of HR experience, most of it with International Paper. I've worked in our box mills, with our mill system and our corporate office. I did a project role in one of our mills in Brazil early in my career. I spent a couple years there later in my career as HR director for Latin America. And currently, I am International Paper's HR director for industrial packaging. So that includes our mills, our box plants, our recycling business, and some supporting functional staff. And just about me, I am a Memphis native and alum. I am married to an NC State grad, and I have two little boys that just keep us busy.
All right, thank you. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brian Schapel, and I'm the Human Resources Director for Solenis, specifically Solenis's North American commercial operations, including their global marketing and technology organization. I started my career with GE, which I spent maybe the majority of it. Later moved to Alcoa and also Sonoco, not the paper company, but the oil and gas company, prior to joining Solenis. So I live here in Wilmington. I'm outside. I reside here in the headquarters in Wilmington. Don't actually live here, but this is my office location. Sometimes it feels like I live here, and I'm just happy to be part of this panel today.
All right, well, thank you both. So let's go ahead and dive into our questions. Let's start off just kind of high level. Can you share some just general trends that you're seeing in the workforce today, maybe around things like retention, work-life balance? What are some of those changing trends that you're seeing?
Sure. I may throw you for a loop here, Mary, but as I was thinking about this question, I was thinking, it's really not just the workforce that's changing. I know that's the focus, and I'll spend a lot of time talking about that, but the workplace is changing and the job market is changing. And I was kind of thinking I don't know if it's chicken egg. I don't know what influences what first, but before I get to workforce, I mean, the job market, we're still seeing roles for salary positions being very competitive. I don't have data, but as I talk to my friends in search firms, they're very active, even in a COVID world, especially when it comes to engineering, supply chain, and HR kind of jobs. So those are busy. And depending on our locations, when we think about production type jobs, it's all over the place, right? We see a lot of applicants in some locations and not a lot in others. But we do know on that level of the organization, there's a lot more competitive wages and environments that may be more appealing, to some prospective employees. I think as far as the workplace, and again, that's where the workplace and workforce really overlap. We're talking about culture constantly. How do we create a culture that encompasses all the things that we believe in: safety, operational excellence, commercial excellence, and those are both really critical for us. How do we create an environment that's ethical, that invites diversity and inclusion? And probably the biggest one we're talking about right now is how we improve flexibility for employees. And so that to me is the biggest thing that when I think of the work force, I see is that desire for flexibility. It drives a lot of our turnover. And again, it's one of those biggest changes. So we've done some things as a company, to address that with work-life balance strategies, and we improved our salary vacation policy a couple of years ago. We're doing different shift schedules, and it's just one of those things that we're continuing to talk about and work on every week. Certainly in our business, we're dealing with an aging workforce across the board, and we are losing, a decent amount of skill and knowledge to retirement. So we've been implementing strategies about knowledge transfer and how to get teams ready. And definitely, it feels like the workforce is seemingly less interested in relocation. And we're going to talk about that maybe more in the future, but families are dual career. A lot of our middle of the workforce is dealing with kids and potentially aging parents at the same time. So that's definitely a challenge because people don't have to relocate. They're more willing to change companies, and there's more opportunities than ever available. So they can get different experiences by going to different companies, and companies are very accepting of that. They're not, they don't, I think in years past, there was kind of this concern about somebody who had job hopped, and now that's much more of an accepted practice. So
Yeah,
that's what came to my mind.
Touched on a wide range of challenges there, so definitely explains why those of us in the HR field have our hands busy these days.
Absolutely. Job security.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Brian, any thoughts you want to share to what Amy discussed?
Yeah, Amy touched on a number of things that certainly here at Solenis we can identify with. Solenis we're a chemical company that deals with water-intensive industries, but pulp and paper is definitely one of the biggest portions of our portfolio. So focusing on the paper industry and thinking about in terms of Solenis itself, we have a very strong commitment coming straight from our CEO towards diversity and inclusion. It's a key objective. Senior leaders measured on it. And we have a very finite goal that by the end of 2030, we'll increase the percentage of our globally of our diverse population from 22 to 44%, and leadership from 14 to 28%. So here in the United States, we look at diversity as gender or ethnicity, but outside of the United States, we look at it specifically as gender. All right. So no problem. It's the challenge. The challenge is not so much with the entry-level programs or for earlier career, I would say, engineers. We do have an entry-level program. It's called STAR. We hire quite a few folks from NC State, we're proud to say, who've turned out to be outstanding employees. So about 50% of our early career hires, specifically engineers, are what I would say diverse. Where we see an issue is really that mid-career demographic, which is historically been more Caucasian and male. So as we look to fill roles like key account manager, again, I work more on the commercial side of the business, but a sales manager, business development, we find challenges in terms of finding diverse candidates, and not so much because of lack of effort or interest, but because of lack of availability. We have a policy here at Solenis where before any position can be filled, you must have a diverse slate of candidates. And by that, I mean the manager will interview a diverse candidate. That can often add cycle time to the staffing process simply to identify and locate diverse candidates. So what that has caused us to do is a little bit out of the box, whereas previously we kind of looked at this almost a Me Too type of profile where you had to have pulp and paper experience, and you had to have 15 years of pulp and paper experience in order to be considered for the role. Now we're expanding our horizons and looking more at, well, are there adjacent industries where we could find candidates that are qualified, other specialty chemicals types of companies with similar product and service business models. And by doing so, that has helped tremendously from a mapping perspective, identify candidates outside of our typical candidate pool, but increase the chance of getting a diverse slate and ultimately a diverse hire. Finally, from a work-life balance perspective, and I think Amy hit on it, one thing that we've done is we've implemented a policy where if you're in a role that allows you to do this, you can work 1 day a week from home. We proved roughly a year ago at this time, when we shut down the corporate headquarters and all of our office locations and worked completely remotely, that we could operate the company basically work from home outside of where we have operations, obviously. So in order to continue this stream of flexibility, which I think employees have really appreciated, we implement a policy where they can work from home 1 day a week, and in some cases a couple days a week, depending upon the needs.
Yeah,
so
well,
those are
thank you.
definitely some changes that I've seen versus earlier in my career as far as the changing landscape of the workforce.
Yeah, it was interesting, your point there on looking for experience outside of the pulp and paper industry. Obviously, as somebody that grew up in the pulp and paper industry, I'm biased, but it's a great point. Is experience is another angle of diversity, and if you're fishing in the same pond and your pond is not very diverse, then it's a challenge to really continue to grow that aspect. So excellent points there. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to our next question. And I would be remiss if I did not ask experts such as yourselves to reveal some secrets. So students, pay special attention to this question. We're going to ask you both, what are some characteristics of new engineers that you really look for, or that may really set a student apart as you're looking to fill those entry-level roles? Amy, you want to start?
Sure. Well, I think it goes without saying that capability is at the top of the list. So we kind of think of that in terms of drive for results, really strong problem solving skills. And when we think of problem solving, we want to make sure that people solve the problem and they can see the whole process through to implementation. So that's critical to kind of have that broad way of thinking. As a company, we look at character. So we think about things like, is the person a safety leader? Do they take that into how they approach everything? And I use the word leader, but that doesn't matter if you're, a manager of people or an individual contributor. When it comes to safety, you need to be setting an example in everything you do around that. We think about agility and being an agile learner. So maybe you've never experienced, an exact problem or situation before, but what in your past can you learn from that you apply to that situation? Because there's a lot of new experiences that we deal with, and we can't prepare everyone for everything. And collaboration. So talking about diversity, same thing. We are trying to build diverse groups in everything that we do. We have a lot of diversity within our different facilities and manufacturing environments. And so we want to make sure that people can work through that, they can collaborate with their diverse teams, and they have very strong communication skills. If they're talking to people that are senior to them, as a lot of new engineers will come into the organization and do, and those could be managers or they could be operators who are also very senior to them. And can they communicate and collaborate with each other as well?
Okay. And Brian, what about you? What are your secret characteristics that you're hoping to find in that top candidate?
Boy, if I keep having to follow Amy, she's going to steal my thunder on every one of the questions, but because she's got excellent answers. But a couple of characteristics, primarily based upon our business model. We don't just sell products to our customers, we sell services. So we have our employees, technicians and engineers actually embedded on the customer site, working side by side with the customer's employees. So you don't have a critical mass of, I would say, in the field, Solenis employees at any given location. So what that means is that one of the secrets is work ethic and the ability to be self-motivated. So an individual who is in a engineer position located at a customer site, they're going to need to really have a winning attitude and be willing to be proactive and self-motivated, leverage the Solenis tools that they have at their disposal, both from a training perspective, from support perspective, in order to take advantage really of what the company has to offer, but also add value to the customer. The other piece, and this may sound a little bit contradictory because I talked about the ability to work independently, but the other side of the equation is interpersonal skills. They're the face of the company to the customer. Therefore, you could be the best engineer in the world, have incredible mathematical or chemical engineering skills, but if you're not able to articulate or convey an idea or a solution to a team and be able to collaborate, you're not going to be successful in your role.
Yep. Good points. And let me ask kind of the flip side to that, and Brian, we'll let you take this one first. So do you find some skills or characteristics that are lacking in entry-level engineers today? Anything there that you would want to share?
Yeah, so on the chemistry, I would say it's knowledge of the equipment that's being used. So knowing the different types of pumps or feed control equipment and having that knowledge, that's really kind of having to learn on the job. It's not something that people coming out of university really have a good feel for. So it's not just the chemicals themselves, but the equipment that applies them. The other is statistics and artificial intelligence. So the concept of the IoT or Internet of Things as a value proposition, and this kind of comes into megatrends, which is something I think that maybe we'll touch on later. It's not just about making paper, it's about optimizing the process in the most sustainable and profitable manner possible for the customer. So as far as what's lacked today, I would say it's a knowledge of one of the mega trends in terms of automation and artificial intelligence. The other more basic one is just the equipment being used in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good to know. And hopefully Dr. Bird's taken some notes so he can then start hounding these things into the students. All right, Amy, what about you? What are some skills or characteristics that you're seeing lacking?
Yeah, so Brian talked about the customer in response to a different question a few minutes ago, but that's probably where the bulk of my answer to this question would come to. I think there's always opportunity to improve business acumen and ensure that new engineers think with an operational mindset as well as a customer focused mindset, again, kind of putting themselves in the customer's place and understanding the market. Again, sometimes our new engineers, they're working in paper mills, they're working with operators, they're working with a lot of diversity. And so I'll echo the interpersonal savvy piece again from a minute ago, just being comfortable working with that diverse group of people and operators who may have a whole lot more experience than them, but maybe don't have the degree that they've just earned. So there's some humility that comes into play there. And I would be remiss if I didn't say hardiness. As much as we are trying to, create a more flexible work environment, our paper mills run 24/7. So you don't have to be there 24/7, but we know that sometimes the hours can be long and the environments can be tough. So being prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point is when you are supporting a 24/7 operation, it can mean some outside of normal office hours that might give you an opportunity to learn usually, because those are the times when something abnormal is happening. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we probably have time for one more question. So let's take it back kind of high level again. I'd be really curious as to what are some mega trends that you're seeing that are shaping the industry right now and you think would be good for people to be aware of in case they're not already experiencing in it, just things that you see, happening and on the horizon that are going to impact those going into the workforce. So Brian, you want to start that one for us?
Sure, and I already kind of touched a little on this in my previous answer, but artificial intelligence. So here at Solenis, we've invested in technology that monitors and optimizes the feed and control components of our customer processes, something we call the optics, which is actually a significant cost savings for the customer in terms of providing additional productivity, minimizing variation, and ultimately waste within their processes. So that's certainly a mega trend that I think that we can expect to see more of as we go forward in the years to come. Another one, I'd be remiss if I didn't say sustainability. Say Solenis is a sustainability company ultimately. And I know that that's important. I'd say the proudest moments, most the coolest moments is when I was first hired to Solenis 2 years ago. My welcome packet, I know you can't read this, but it was this card. And it said, to celebrate the addition of your talents to our team, Solenis is making a donation in your honor to the water project. This donation will provide rainwater harvesting and latrines for a school in Western Kenya. When I saw that, I said, wow, that's cool. Look what I did today. Or I didn't do, but what a contribution, you know, me joining the organization made. So that really plays into the realm of being a good corporate citizen. But as far as the actual products and what we offer for value for our customers, it goes beyond that. It's for the environment as well. I'll just give you an example. Something as simple as, I don't have one here, but a coffee cup. There's actually a lot of barriers in coffee cups which make them non-recyclable. We're coming up with technology that provides an alternative in that barrier to that traditional barrier that allows them to be more recyclable. So there's an example of a mega trend where sustainability, yes, environmental, social, and governance, the more sustainable we can be, the more our customers can be sustainable and provides additional value to them, in addition to not just being a profitable company, but a good company, all right? And finally, I would say, and kind of tied to my first answer, you know, more automated and autonomous control processes. That's a significant mega trend that we're finding, and something that I think that engineers, early career engineers, need to be aware of, particularly to react to small changes and ensure within a process and ensure a consistent product.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that example of that, you know, new hire notification. I mean, that sounds like from day one, you're showing appreciation to a new employee, but then also aligning them to Solenis as a sustainability company. So great example.
It makes you feel part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. Yep. Amy, any thoughts you want to add?
I think Brian spoke a lot to sustainability, which was on my list, and I also applaud you guys for what you're doing. I think that's really cool. The other thing I was thinking about was just data. You know, big data is a piece of that, and mentioned that, you know, we look for people that can be agile learners. So the only thing that I would add is, how do you use data for anticipatory purposes, not just for problem solving? So getting people to think in that way and use data analytics to kind of see what's around the corner and what's coming in that regard.
Yeah, that's a very meaningful tie-in, because if you think about, sometimes data is your reaction response. But if you're looking at it from a forward thinking, it can also be that predictive response that really gets you ahead in the process.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. I want to thank you both for your participation today. Really great to hear your thoughts and good insights into what's happening in the industry today. So appreciate your time. And as always, go Wolfpack.